Empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Scoop World Order. We are back. We are very excited about some of the new production enhancements that we have going. We are going to get into some film of CJ Stroud from the Rose Bowl. We're going to talk about a huge commitment that's coming tomorrow. Just over the moon excited to be back, cranked up, and ready to give you Ohio State fans the product that you deserve. So I am excited to bring in my compadre, Mr. Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great, Kirk. I'm excited to see some of this new tech and see you on the telestrator and see what you can do and break down some great plays from the near past and the far past. And this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and we're gonna break down a few plays from the Rose Bowl, some of the best shots that CJ Stroud threw. We had a great one to Emeka, a bunch to Jackson Smith and Jigba. One of the most prolific performances in college football history. Just an outstanding, basically put the team on his back performance. And I'm just excited to get into it. So without further ado, we're going to take us into our brand new film room, which I'm very excited about. So we have some Rose Bowl film. So this first play, as you can see, it wasn't looking too good, Nevada, was it, at the beginning of this game?
No, it was about. I mean, it was 14-0, and Ohio State you couldn't get anything going. You just felt like they were really at kind of an inflection point where they needed something really good to happen, or this game was going to slip away. And CJ Stroud kind of took the team on his back and kind of carried them from this point forward. But at this point forward, for us people that were at the game, we were looking for the exits early, so it was a little sketchy for sure.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that, because you were there. You had a group with you. Tell me a little bit about like because the lead up to the game was, this is Utah's biggest game in their school history. For Ohio State, we have kids opting out. How motivated are they going to be? We're missing, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Haskell Garrett, Nick Petit-Frere. Like what was the mood when Utah took that early? And obviously, the air's coming out of the balloon, but talk a little bit about actually being there and the palpable effect that you felt in the stadium.
Well, again, for those people that followed me, I was saying take Utah plus the points in the game because I just really felt that this was not a good spot for Ohio State. And as you said, Utah was really fired up. It was the biggest game in their school history, and the crowd reflected it. I mean, it was at least 70% Utah fans, maybe even higher than that, and they were jacked. And when they came down and scored right away and held us and came down and scored again, I mean, it was an electric. It was one of the best college football atmospheres. In the Utah fans, I have to give them credit. They were great fans. We had some fans sitting right behind us that were Utah fans, and they couldn't have been nicer. Excited about their team, but respectful about the matchup. And it was just a great night for college football. One of the nights I'll never forget, and certainly I shared it with my family, and that was special as well. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get right into it, man. 14-0. You're sitting there in the stands, and we're kind of up against it. Formationally, we're 2x2 here. We've got our two receivers split to the field. We have Jeremy Ruckert at a wing position. So we're 2x2 here. Pretty basic. You get your studs out to the wide field. You look at the shot. One of the best balls to Emeka Egbuka early on. This was a kid that we talked about leading up to the game, him and Marvin Harrison Jr. This is going to be a coming out party. And this shot really kind of set the tone, didn't it, Nevada?
No, it did. Great throw by Stroud. Great read by him to see the safeties kind of bailed out of coverage over the top, and he put the ball in the only spot that it could be caught. I had a perfect angle on this one. It was going right away from me, and the window that he threw into was absolutely tiny. So that was a big time throw by CJ at a huge point in the game.
Yeah, this was you're curious going into the game. You knew that Kyle Whittingham, excellent defensive coach. I'm sure that he's noted, in the past, 10 years ago, we had, issues with bear defense. So, early on, here we are. We get the bear front, we get the zero nose, we get a three, you get the two stand-up backers here. And then this guy, the middle guy is always a threat to blitz when it comes to this package. So You're always curious as to how the team is going to handle it. And, we opted to slide everything. So, what that means is, formationally, you have your left tackle take him C gap, guard B gap, center A gap, off guard A gap. DeJuan takes the B gap. Trey cuts the edge. So this is a 6.5 man protection. And what that means, then I'll kind of run through this real quick and let it play so people can see it. So, we're saying, hey, we're sliding left because, the most important part to communicating protection is the quarterback has to know where he's hot from. That's something where, there's going to be a guy, if you only have 6 blockers and they, potentially have an extra guy here. I mean, they've only got 6, so we could pick them all up. But if they happen to bring an extra guy, he has to know who he has to beat with the throw. So you watch this.
So
Kirk,
is CJ calling the protection? Is CJ out there calling? Is he actually saying a word that let everybody know to slide left, or is the center calling the protection, or who's telling everybody?
Generally,
what to
like
do?
with this protection and given the look, this is the center just making a call to the left, so it's a full slide. And I'm sure that this is something they drilled. They were probably expecting bear defense, given what Utah did in the regular season.
So the center's the one calling it. So the center's giving the secret word that tells everybody to slide left or something like that.
Yeah, it's usually Liz or Rip. I mean, in this protection, this
Got
is
it.
a 6.5. This with Ryan and his NFL progressions, this could actually be a full slide protection, which is something that Urban Meyer almost never did. So this could actually just be a base 6.5 man protection. So when you watch it, and again, I love stuff like this because it messes with defensive ends. Like anything you can do to slow them down and give Trey Henderson a little bit of help or a little bit of pause, because at the start of the play, you assume that he's man to man here, but if for some reason he rolls over, you gotta make sure that you're able to defend everybody. So 6.5 man protection. Watch how Jeremy Rucker delays here, and I love this because it gives him a little pause for a second. And it makes Trey's job a little bit easier. He sees that there's no pressure; he can leak out into the route. And with this delay, something you pointed out when we were doing our pre-show. Talk a little bit about Jeremy Rucker's subtle move right here, Nevada, and how much you appreciated his moxie on this play.
Well, you watch that field judge there in the middle of the field, and by Rucker delaying like that, he's able to rub him off the defender off, just run a little pick off that guy, and you see how much separation he got underneath. So he's available to CJ as kind of an outlet, down below, and that probably could have gone for some good yardage. But it's the little things like by delaying just that step, it allowed that ref to take a step back, and then Rucker could go underneath them and rub them off like a basketball player. And I like the subtlety of things like that, and those are the little kind of game inside the game stuff that sometimes you miss when you're there at the Rose Bowl. But it was fun to see on the film for sure.
Yeah, that's the benefit to seeing it from here. So like you see approximately how much space, roughly maybe a yard, and then after the rub, like look at this. It's like, I mean, it's impossible to cover that, when you run it the way that Jeremy ran it. So, on the protection, excellent suck by Thayer covers him up. Based on this protection, Matt Jones has the B gap. So anything that comes inside is Matt's. So Thayer can be really aggressive holding the C gap, so that's why he can take that big outside kick. He knows that Matt's got, and they're running a game here. So, this is really easy for us to muck up. Again, the guy that does a great job here is Luke Whippler. Luke, just being a football player, he normally has the A gap, but he can feel the pressure, gets enough of the guy. Paris kind of has the tough one here because he's got that zero nose coming right down his throat. So he's got to anchor down a little bit better, but he gets just enough to get the ball off. And that's the thing about football is a game of inches. So you give CJ just enough room to get that throw off, and he throws it nice and high. Just a gorgeous catch and completion. And again, this is where CJ really progressed throughout the season. I mean, he stood in there, dropped a dime right here. Just one of the, as good of an NFL throw as you'll ever see. And that's why he's, he projected to be a top 5 pick next year. So this next play, it's still not looking great. It's still 14-0. Maybe the first or second play of the second quarter here. So how are you feeling then? You start, quarter changes, they switch ends, still 14-0. Are you feeling better at this point in Nevada while you're sitting there?
Well, you just knew this was a key point in the game. And this is one of those, if you make it, okay, game on, we've got a chance to start trading scores with them. But if you miss, then there was no prospect that we were stopping Utah's offense there in the first half. And the prospect of going down 21-0 was pretty scary. So this certainly had the feel of a gigantic play at the time. And when they went back to pass, there's definitely a little bit of hold your breath moment there anytime you're passing, because you got to throw a good pass and you got to make a good catch, and lots of things can go wrong, but everything went right. And so you can see it turned out to be a big play for Ohio State, and to a guy that we'd predicted big things for. I predicted 3 touchdowns for Marvin Harrison, and this was number 1.
Yeah, this is I love this. This is a little subtle thing. Ryan Day just being a little bit of an evil genius on this play. He runs four to a side, 4 to the field here. You're kind of in the middle of the field, so it's kind of middle. I don't even could call this field because they're right in the middle. But the thing about this formation, and I mentioned to you, so this ends up being a 7-man protection, that is an NFL thing. Jim Tressel has some 7-man protections. I don't know if Coach Meyer ever had a 7-man protection in his entire playbook. So this is an NFL thing where you're trying to take a shot with your 2 interior guys. So by rule in this formation, when you have a tight end covered and you have your ex receiver Julian Flemmard on the line, these guys are both ineligible. They cannot go out and catch a pass. These guys are both eligible receivers. Now, in the heat of the moment in a game, when you have the tight end covered and he's on the line, then this guy's still probably going to cover this guy, because I don't know if he's smart, because you can see how they edge up so that it is he ineligible? He's ineligible, but he's covered up. He is not eligible, and he is not eligible. So this is basically a 2-man concept with a 7-man protection, a 7-man wall. Trey coming off the edge. So this is basically a shot to get him. You're going to get one of these guys open, and they end up getting both of them open. So we're going to roll this tape real quick. And I mean, you can't have 2 guys running more free than Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jackson Smith and Jigba here are. So, at the moment that CJ is making his decision, you've got Jackson coming here, nobody home. You got Marvin running past him, nobody home. So again, excellent play call. Julian just kind of holds his guy to make sure he doesn't bail. Because in the heat of the moment, this guy doesn't realize he's an ineligible receiver. So you watch it, again, protection is fantastic. You have a wall here. You're cutting the edge here. And it looks like this is a clinic tape. This is how you do it. This is excellent work. Great firm pocket. Great job by Trey. I think Trey, as much as I love Marvin and CJ, like Trey on this play is as good as anybody, because he really rolls his hip and gets up underneath this linebacker who adds to the blitz when he realizes that Trey is not out in a route. So it's all in all, it's just a great play, but what a throw. Holy cow. You're watching this live, Nevada. Tell me a little bit about what you're thinking when you see this drop in the bucket.
Yeah, well, it was funny because I was watching Trey, because I'm expecting to run at the time, and I noticed his block in real time as well. He delivered a blow and kept that pocket clean on that thing, and then like you said, CJ just made a perfect throw, made it really easy for Marvin Harrison Jr. to make that catch. But yeah, you saw a couple of big time plays. You watch this here when you see Trey Anderson come on the left side there and deliver the blow to this guy. Just kept him out of the pocket, kept the pocket clean, and made it easy for CJ to make that toss.
Yeah, this is just, he sees, got the look he wants, clean box. You got 7 blockers. You can basically pick up anything they bring. Guys are, again, it's firm. We've got more than they're bringing, so that makes it a little bit easier. It's just one of those things where, Luke Whippler, he hangs in there. He's kind of got the big sombrero on this play, because he's the lone guy that's got a one-on-one. DeJuan pops this guy. He kind of stops. PJ's just kind of helping both. Thayer's locked in. Matt's just kind of staying low. Thayer really does a great job here, coming down hard to kind of sell run. But there's not much of a play action fake from Trey on this little counter. He tries to do a little counter step, but he comes out and he really pops this guy. This is one of the things that really stood out to me, is he really rolls his hip. He gets that football position, power, pops this guy. And it's just, look at the wind go out of him. His back snaps back. That's great technique. It's great power, explosion. And that's something that, you don't really see it. It's not a thing that shows up in the stat sheets, but that's something that NFL people want to know is, will this guy do this? And is he any good at it? And, in the NFL, when you've got a quarterback and you got to have a running back pass protection, he's got to be in there. So we'll just watch it one more time from the top. And again, and Jackson Smith and Jigba had the greatest, game in history, and he could add this one too. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, there's another kill shot, if CJ had picked him, but I mean, there's no help there. I mean, you're not going to beat him to the pylon, but yeah, just
Well,
all in all, great.
but it's funny though, Kirk. You watch that thing and you see Harrison kind of delay his off the line right there, which gives time for JSN to kind of clear out that guy up there on the top. And like you said, Fleming kind of locks this guy down, which kind of guarantees that Harrison's going to get that thing right there to the flag. But that little hesitant, that because again, you go too quickly, and there's a chance that uh, Jackson Smith, the Jigba's guy, drops off and hands him off to the safety, and then kind of rolls to the flag with you. But that was
Yeah.
again, little subtle things that you don't see all the time when you're sitting there at the game. But you know that's the difference. That's a good Brian Hartline coaching thing there, where he had those guys create space for each other, and the result was a Buckeye touchdown.
Yeah, and I mean they've drilled that a million times. It's great technique, great release. Again, it's just fun to watch. And I watch this one more time all the way through. But it's just look at this. I mean, perfect protection, great job by Trey. Yeah, even I mean Ruck puts his nose up in there. He's locking his guy down, giving no penetration. And you got to do it for about 2.5 seconds, and the ball's gone. So, great job by the offense. Great job watching this. And we're gonna go to got a big commitment tomorrow. So we're gonna switch gears real quick. We're gonna go into offensive tackle mode, since we have our newest Buckeye likely selecting tomorrow in Luke Montgomery. Nevada, tell me a little bit about Luke Montgomery. I saw him at camp. His dad played for Kevin Wilson, so he's kind of been on the tour. He's gone to about every school in the country, but looks like he's gonna be a Buckeye tomorrow. What are your initial thoughts on Luke Montgomery?
Luke's an interesting guy. He's a versatile guy. He's played a lot of offense as well as a lot of defense. There was a thought at some point in time that he might be a better defensive prospect than an offensive prospect, and I think those thoughts are gone for right now. But it really speaks to his athleticism, and he can really play up and down the line. He's not a likely center, but he's certainly a guy that can play guard or a guy that can play tackle, and he plays with a really good bend, very finishes his blocks, high football IQ. You can tell it comes from a football family, and there's just lots to like with this kid. Reminds me a lot of Mike Brewster coming out of high school, and Mike was really really highly regarded coming out of Florida, 5-star kid, and Luke looks every bit the part of a 5-star kid, and it's gonna be a great get for Ohio State tomorrow.
Yeah, here's a little bit of him. We were at camp with him all day. This is they're in their 40s. He very angular kid. Very lean kid. Muscular, puts in the work in the gym. Just a smooth runner, a smooth athlete. He's a little bit undersized right now, but who cares? I mean, he was young. This is going into his junior year, so I mean, he's just a puppy. Basketball player, so it's probably a little bit harder to hold away. But I mean, real smooth stride. At this point in time, as long as they have the requisite size, you're looking to see how good of an athlete they are, how smooth are they. It's as silly as it is, the time matters, but it's more kind of how it looks, and is he, what's his upside? Like again, just a smooth athlete. He plays high level basketball. Kid's in great shape. He's moving year round, competitive. And we followed him all day, and it was just one of those things where it's kind of fun to see how these kids compete. Because he's the kind of kid that doesn't have to compete. He doesn't have to come to camp, but he still did. I mean, once you have the offer, you don't really have to come. But he was here all day. He worked hard. And like I love watching these drills because I just love seeing the movement skills. That's something that you don't really get as much. You can see it on film, but you can gauge their potential by how well they can bend. How well they come out of their stance, and a lot of it you can coach up, but some of it's just natural. You just see how fluid he is here. And it's hard because I'm not going to show every other kid, but this is really, really good. He stays low, he's quick, explosive, runs through it. And again, that's the 5-star kid. He doesn't have to be here, but he's putting in the work, and he worked hard all day, and he really did a nice job. So I was excited just to watch him do some of these drills. You watch him through the bags. Like I love the bags just because it just shows the agility, the speed, the coordination. And it's just funny. Sometimes it's just fun seeing what drills coaches like to put kids through to evaluate kids. I mean, every O-line coach in the world loves bags, and so do D-line coaches. And he nicks one here, but it's fine. But we the fun part is you get to you get to the competitive stuff and you start doing the one-on-one pass rush. I'm gonna skip ahead to that, and then we'll watch a couple shots of film. But it's just I love watching these kids compete, and and this is another drill that a lot of these are from the NFL Combine. So you see these kids that come out, they pop the bag, see how they roll their hips. Here he stumbles, but again, he looks. He has some moments where he looked like kind of Bambi on ice, you could say. And me and Bill Green said that to each other. But again, you're at this point in his development, you're just gauging upside. So there's not much more fun than this, Nevada, when you're watching kids hit physio balls, going off the boards. What do you think of all this?
Yeah, well, it's. I think it's hard for the average person to really tell the difference between a 5-star and a 3-star and a 1-star. And I think having your perspective on kids like this, especially offensive linemen, is invaluable. And considering the fact that you coached at Ohio State as well as played at Ohio State, that I think your perspective on this thing is super helpful. And to be able to watch these drills and be able to run this stuff back, certainly helps me understand kind of what a coach is looking for when he's looking at tape. When you're sitting with Urban Meyer, what's Urban Meyer looking for when he's evaluating an offensive lineman?
He loved to talk about ankle flexibility. That was always a really big thing with him. This is great. They're hitting the Crowler sled, and then the thing I love about these camps is you really get to see these coaches work. So you got Coach Willis over here, kind of coach them up on the Crowler sled, because this is like something. If there's one thing that I've learned O-line coaches love, it's the Crowler. I mean, and it's you hit it square and firm, and it pops straight up and it drives straight back, and that's kind of like an A grid. And then you have guys that hit it kind of go sideways. You have guys that hit it, it doesn't pop up. So that's how you kind of measure flexibility, hip explosion. If guys can roll their hips, which is really important with offensive line play. And and Urban, he loved ankle flexibility. He loved leanness, athleticism. Obviously, being a competitive guy is huge. So we'll watch a couple of these. This is against the Notre Dame commitment, Brennan Vernon. These guys kind of went at it all day. And this drill, if there's any drill in the world that's slanted more towards the D line, it's this one. So you just kind of judge how's he get out, how's he set. And again, like this is why I'm not a huge fan of this drill, because I feel like 80% of the wins are guys that do this. They go step under. And in a real game, this guard, if it's a regular slide protection, is going to ear hole you and kill you. So, this isn't really a realistic rush all the time, because in a normal slide protection, you'd have your center here, your guards right here. And if this guy goes into the B gap, it's the guard's responsibility. So, he does his job here, but, in this drill, mentally people think that this is a win for the D line. So it's, but he followed it. It was funny. Like the kids that didn't bring helmets, he'd have to pop his helmet off and get a rep. But a lot of these kids, and again, look at Kevin Wilson. He's fired up because I talked to him too. I said, the golden rule playing offensive tackle is don't get beat inside out. So I said, look, you're too athletic for a kid to ever run around the shoe, which so to speak is run this outside. Because if this kid takes an outside rush and this kid with his hips can turn and flip his hips, he's going to be able to deflect and pass, and the quarterback's going to be able to step up and make a throw. But, the one thing you can't do is you can't get beat inside, because if you get beat inside, the quarterback can't step up. If he's here, I mean, you're going to get his ACL torn, if the guy's diving into him. So, Coach Wills got with him, and you can see, I love watching, again, the coach's reactions when you're sitting at this camp. And you see Wills, he just told him, hey, set inside out, don't get beat inside. And, Coach Wills clapping because he's like, hey, the kid, again, one of the biggest things about these camps that's great is you can see if kids can take coaching or not. You can see if when you tell it to them, if they can mentally comprehend it and then physically do it. And that's why these camps they're a blast to go to, because, you like to see the makeup and the competitiveness of the kids. So, you see, I mean, I was taking all these reps because I love watching this stuff, but you can see what good reps look like, what not as good reps looks like. Here's another rep by him. And, again, he's a puppy here. I mean, and for the D lineman, this is much easier. But again, great feet, sits down, and it's hard because you're not really supposed to bull rush. So this is kind of like a stab one arm bull rush, but he could chop that hand off and it's a win. But I mean the ability to redirect and his balance here, and to not fall down like 90% of the tackles do, that's rare. I mean, that's why some people think he's an interior guy. I would put this kid at tackle for sure. Just because of like, look at this footwork, look at this speed. Obviously he's got to sit down a little bit better, but as he gains bulk, as he matures and gets older and gets with Mickey Marotti, he gets his squat up a little bit, gets a little heavier. He's going to stone this guy. You got any questions for me as I'm going through this? I get excited and I just start talking. So
No. Like I said, it's fun to see it through the through your eyes on this stuff, and it's super helpful. And I can't imagine that the number of guys that are just getting run over in this drill. And like I said, it's a drill that's designed for defensive linemen to feast, and it's it's fun to see a kid this athletic, a kid that's this athletic and smart and strong, barring some, knock on wood injury or something like that. He's going to be a contributor somewhere on the line for Ohio State, whether it be a tackle playing at guard or a guard playing at center or whatever he's going to be doing. But excited to have him in the Buckeye fold.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to his actual film, his game film with pads on everything, because again, it's the game film is super important, but there's a reason these coaches all want to have these kids at camp. It's because you want to see how well they can take coaching, and you really can kind of get a little bit of a look at their mental capacity, kind of their competitive drive. I've seen kids that are really heralded that would get beat once or twice in drills and they'd get a hamstring, and all of a sudden they're just standing there with an ice bag, on their phone the rest of the camp. So you like to see what these kids are made of. And honestly, as weird as it is, it's kind of nice to see when these kids lose a few times to see how they respond to it. Because, sometimes these kids go to camp and they're not going against anybody that's any good and they win every rep. But sometimes they go against a really good player and they lose a rep. And it's always good to see how these kids bounce back because, at Ohio State, you're going to lose some reps. Like there's going to be guys that are better than you, especially when you're a true freshman. And, I've seen some guys that they get beat so bad their freshman year that they never recover mentally and they never end up contributing. So it's always nice to see how these guys do from that perspective. So I'm going to roll a bit of tape here, just kind of talk over it. This is just a nice little tunnel screen, gets down flat, comes off the rock, and this is this is always a fun block when you're a tackle. And this isn't as easy as it looks because, you're out in space, you got a little guy, you get a chance to ear hole him. It takes a little bit of athleticism to pull that off. And he's the kid that can do that. And, when we have quick wide receivers and we run tunnel screens, it helps to have a kid like this. So, I love, again, you can't always, blame who they're going against, but, the finish is outstanding here. Rolls his hips, runs his feet, plays with some nastiness, which is great. Another thing you judge. And I mentioned to you last night when I was studying this kid that, there aren't many kids that play as many positions as this kid is in high school. He played left tackle, he played guard, he played nose tackle on defense, D tackle on defense, D end on defense, literally all over the field. And here's another, his athleticism in space, his finish is nasty. I mean, this is wild because he actually, he gets a hold of the kid here, and then he has the athleticism and the mentality to finish him and bury him and fall on him. And, these things add up, man. These are like body blows. He comes back in the frame here, but those are body blows, man. You keep doing that to a kid. Do you think he wants to keep playing? Probably not.
Well, he's just hoping he gets to play against guys that are 5'6", 130 pounds in college. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. No, man. Hey, those corners aren't much bigger. You can flatten some little corners like that, But he's I see him and I just look at the upside, the potential. And playing travel basketball is, it's like one of those double-edged swords because it's great that you're competing year round. You're working on athleticism. You're not just sitting on the couch, but it's hard to gain weight. Because when you're running and practicing and running suicides and playing in tournaments and you're traveling a lot, it's hard to pack on 25 pounds or so. See, by the time he gets to campus, he'll probably be like 285 or so. He'll probably want to get to 300. Joe Staley played left tackle in the NFL. He weighed 295. Super lean, super athletic. He was a track star in high school, tight end. I played with him in San Francisco. Super lean, super quick. So you can do it at 295, if you've got the requisite strength. And I think this is that's a guy that he reminds me of is Staley, just because, he's got to get his kick step and his vertical set honed up, but he's got a lot of upside, man. And I'm just excited he's going to be joining the family. His dad's great. His dad played for Kevin Wilson. So that obviously is a tremendous help, but he's from Findlay. Again, I love the nastiness. I mean, this is nasty right here. And you can't get enough of it when you're watching this because you love watching these You know, I mean, those are the tone setters that you love, and you can't always coach kids to do that, to finish kids, and he loves doing it. So it's not like you have to say, hey, finish your block, because he's just doing it naturally. So I'll watch a couple more, and but like I love doing this. Like this is going to be a big factor for us going forward, is just watching film, talking through things. We're going to do some of these live film sessions, so people can ask us questions, chat with us, kind of see what if they have questions. Because the good thing about our community is we have so many people that are they ask great questions. So that kind of helps us make sure that we're catering to their what they'd like to know. So but I'm so excited, and this is it's gonna be great, my man. So I think we're ready. You got any closing thoughts for us, Nevada Buck? We got a few more thoughts coming for the rest of the week, but you got any thoughts to close us out?
No, I just think it's an exciting time to be an Ohio State fan. We've got a national championship quality offense and an exciting change up on the defensive staff, and the year 2022 is going to be a really exciting time to be a Buckeye fan, and can't wait. It's going to be spring ball is going to be here before we know it. Then we're going to be into summer, and then we're going to be kicking it off in the fall. So it's time to buckle up.
Yeah, I'm over the moon excited. Ready to get on the message boards. We got winter conditioning coming up. We got the St. Valentine's Day Massacre coming on Friday, so we're gonna get some reports on that. That's gonna be great. But just love it, man. So anyone you need some more inside info, head to BuckeyeScoop.com. Nevada and I are gonna be on the boards. We're gonna be getting some good work in tonight, and then this is gonna be a big week. I mean, winter conditioning has been the intensity has been turned up dramatically, which is probably needed, and it's something that I'm excited to hear that kids are saying it's the hardest that they've ever worked, and the coaches are turning it up, and you've got anytime you have kind of basically a hockey line change on defense, like there's a lot of kids that have to go re-impress their coaches. Most of these kids on defense are starting from square one, and same with the offensive line. If you've got a new position coach, I mean, you're starting at square one, so you got to be putting your best foot forward. You got to be in great shape. You got to be first in line in the drills and that type of thing. And I'm just excited to see how it all shakes out. And I can't wait for spring football. I think it's going to be amazing. And, I just a lot of excitement around the program right now. I can't wait to see what Jim Knowles versus Kevin Wilson in the spring looks like. That's going to be unbelievable. So with that, appreciate you, Scoop family. BuckeyeScoop.com. We're going to be on there all night. Got a ton of content coming. This is going to be coming pretty hot and heavy, so we're excited about it. So with that, this has been the Scoop World Order. We will see you on the Scoop.